Pete, the Memphis Grizzlies may not have offered Jordan Goodwin, but uh, we got, we got an offer, two men in a garden for next season.
Yeah, and it's an offer we can't resist, Zach.
No.
I'm not one to leave loose threads, so I want to follow up on my ad read from last week about the pickling pouch that they sent me in my last box. And I got to say, so what I put into it, just to remind people, I took four baby cucumbers, put one into slices, little pickled chips, threw them in there. I quartered one, split one in long halves, and then left the other one whole. Put them in there, a little bit of water, some vinegar, shook it up with the seasoning that's already in there and left it in my fridge. They recommend 3 days. I did 5 days. Um, I didn't have a good reason to open it sooner. Wasn't home a whole lot for a couple days. And then on the fifth day, which was, I guess, last Friday, I opened the thing up and I got to say, so the first thing I had was the whole, and it was phenomenal. Like it was perfect. It was so good. And I thought, okay, well, that's it. So that's what I got to do here. Leave the whole baby cucumbers in there, and that's a perfect pickle. But all three other slices, sizes, whatever you want to call it, were also perfect. The halves, the quarters, the chips, they all turned out perfectly in the same bag. So I'm going to recommend that you go to twomeninthegarden.com, pick up as many of their pickling pouches as you can. This is the real deal dill. They're not kidding when they say dill too. There's a lot of dill in there. If you're dill averse, I just want to warn you, at the very least, you're gonna have to shake them off when you get them out of the bag. But they turn out fantastic. Follow their instructions, leave them in there an extra day or two. Use baby cucumbers. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. These are so good. I'm going to be ordering a lot more of these pouches next time with my next order, which is going to be pretty soon, Zach. Again, head over to twominutegarden.com. You can put as many of these you want in a box with your other salsas, pickles, whatever you want to order. They've got $9.99 nationwide shipping. Don't miss out on this. I'm telling you, it's so easy, and I cannot. If you are within the sound of my voice, I cannot overstate how good these pickles are. They turned out perfectly. Once again, twomeninthegarden.com. Get on this now.
Did you just create a new tagline for them? It's a perfect pickle.
If people want to run with that, who am I to stop them?
They should. That is the best tagline I think I've ever heard for. I mean, I don't know why like it's not already in use.
I'm a slew marketing major, Zach. What can I say?
Hell yeah. Um the women's basketball A10 matchups were announced on Wednesday. And I would say it's the equivalent to the men here.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Although the funny thing here, Zach, is these teams were all kind of mid last season. Dayton was not good last year, but they should be better. Loyola, Rhode Island, Davidson were actually all kind of within a game of or two of 500, but they were all teams that were either supposed to be better or that I think will be better this season. So think that's important to note. Once again, Dayton and Loyola, they're just going to pair those with SLU every year, no matter what. And then Rhode Island is frequently they would like last year they were picked to win the league, and I'm sure they're going to be up there again this year. Davidson, I'm not quite sure how they're going to be this year. I think they had a lot more roster turnover, but yeah, I think these home and home pairings are a vote of confidence in these teams, for sure.
This is a weird um it's weird how I came into learning about this Brooke Flowers news, Pete.
Yeah, how did you stumble across this? Because you texted me like, did we know this?
Yeah, so I have a buddy, a guy, he's a friend, he's British, which makes this even weirder. He lives in Nashville, and he texted me, "Hey, do you know Brooke Flowers?" I go, "Well, I, I don't know how to answer that because like I know who she is. I don't know if I know her."
Right.
Um, but yeah, I guess. He goes, I'm with her family right now, and like her aunt and somebody. and they're talking about. I told them about your podcast, and they're talking about how Brooke Flowers did awesome this season as a coach, and is actually playing in Australia professionally. And I was like, wait a minute, why are you telling me this? Why do I
Yeah.
not know this already?
Yeah.
It
I
was
know.
just, it was the weirdest thing. Like, I took him to one Billiken men's basketball game before he moved,
Yeah.
and he's breaking women's basketball news to me. I don't know.
You're like, normies are not supposed to be telling me sort of
No,
sports
this is
news. Like,
bullshit, man.
I already know. Yeah.
I'm
Why are you?
almost insulted by this.
Yeah, but she's playing in Australia for the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. She's averaging about 8 and 8 so far, so she's playing pretty well. But I had no idea she was over there, Zach. I just thought she was going to be back coaching again.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if I mean, I would imagine the Australian league runs through the American summer,
True.
so maybe she can do both
Yeah, maybe. I
as
don't
that
really
grad
know.
assistant.
Haven't heard anything about it, but if we get to talk to anybody on the women's staff this year heading into the season, we'll definitely have to get more details about it.
On the baseball side, Tyler Fogarty, second team academic All American.
Yeah, pretty high honor. Hendrickson said it was, he's one of the best to ever wear the uniform for us. So I think he was pretty excited for him. So very cool to see for Tyler.
Uh, Outgoing transfers, a little update. Graham Mastros is following Logan Moon to Illinois State. That hitting coach relationship clearly important to him.
Yeah.
As previously announced, Easton Richter is headed to Minnesota, where assistant coach, the top assistant in Minnesota is Connor Gandossi. Billiken baseball fans will recognize that name. He was team captain and catcher back when I was in school. And then Jackson Holmes is headed to Missouri State. And I don't think we have any more updates other than those three.
No, I think that's all we know so far. And again, shout out to Okie Billiken for keeping us updated.
Uh Men's soccer, we learned officially that the men and women's soccer games against SIUE, that's the bronze boot for the men, and then the women's rivalry game. Sunday, September 8th, it'll be held at City Park again. Let's hope it's a little bit cooler this time, Pete.
A little bit cooler. We also hope that it's a little bit better publicized by our
Yes,
fair alma mater. And then the other factor here is it's Sunday and not Saturday. So attendance wise, I know that'll be a little, I don't know. Will it be better, worse? I don't know. I think the night game might be a little bit trickier if it's day night.
yeah. I didn't it
Um,
like isn't it like 3-6?
it was something like that last year, 4-7 maybe.
I think it was four
Um,
seven last year. I think it's 3-6 this time, but
yeah,
I'll have to look.
yeah. So
I don't like it being on Sunday personally, but what do I know?
yeah, I mean, it pretty much guarantees that I won't be able. It's also a weekend later because I think last year it was on Labor Day weekend as well, if I'm not mistaken, because I was in town, and I won't be able to make it in town after like once it's after Labor Day, then my coaching schedule kicks in, so I can't travel most of September and October after that, but so yeah, there are those things to keep in mind that are different from last season, but hopefully it's as well attended as it was last year, and hopefully the men show up and play a better game than they did last season as well. And Zach, I think based on what we're about to go over, we should have some reason to be optimistic about that.
Absolutely. By the way, just to amend my incorrectness, it's 3:30 and 6:30
Okay.
this time around. Yeah, the officially announced incoming class for 2024, it's ranked number 2 in the country by Top Drawer Soccer. Pete, I knew we had great recruiting success. I knew it was ranked highly, but seeing it in writing is all together is super impressive and super exciting.
Yeah, this is kind of what makes it real and what really brings it together and you kind of go, oh, okay, this is what they meant, like I didn't know how highly rated some of these high school players were or the level of some of the transfers that we're bringing in. I mean, it's pretty remarkable the group of guys we're bringing in.
Yeah, Pete, let's run down these names and we'll go ahead and go back and forth here.
Yeah, I'll start with Draven Barnett, who's a transfer midfielder from Temple, originally from Springfield, Missouri. Kevin Kalish compared him to Tyler Adams in his athleticism, his positional versatility, and his ability to dominate both sides of the ball. He also added that Barnett has a great personality and will be a perfect cultural fit at SLU. He will be a junior, so he should have 2 seasons of eligibility left at SLU.
Jackson Delkus, he's a forward from Laurel Springs School in Ojai, California. He started out at Chaminade in St. Louis. Prep Soccer ranked him as the number one player in the class of 2024. He's in the St. Louis City Academy system and previously came up with Scott Gallagher. Kaler said he's a powerful attacker with incredible speed, and he's an intense competitor and a game changer.
Yeah, number one in the class. I mean, that's the kind of player we're getting now. So yeah, I'll take it. Connor
Do
Dillman.
you think we're getting how much of this you think is a little NIL ski?
I was thinking about that because I'm like, I know we have some very real donor funds in
Mhm.
the soccer alumni pool. So a little bit, we talked about that before. A little bit goes a long way when it's not basketball or football or stuff like that. So
It'll be interesting to see how these soccer schools like
yeah,
Indiana and SLU start to really get into the NIL and start to really get their alumni base involved in the
yeah,
NIL and how much that can change and really kind of bolster these historic programs. They
yeah.
did say that there's going to be roster limitations coming down the pipeline officially.
I've
So
heard the same, but yeah, it hasn't happened yet. So we'll see what that looks like. But I'm just very curious, like you say, to see how kind of the landscape shifts. Do we see the existing soccer powers kind of double down, or do we see some of those attentions get diverted by basketball and football and baseball and other things? So that's going to be really interesting to see play out. But third name on the list is Connor Dillman. He's a goalkeeper from Springfield, Illinois. Played at Sacred Heart Griffin High School and also came up in the St. Louis Scott Gallagher program. Kalish said he's dedicated to his development and he's a great person and student. I think he won multiple awards for his off-field pursuits from Scott Gallagher. So highly recognized for that kind of stuff.
Drake Fournier, or Fournier, midfielder from Leander, Texas, University of Texas High School. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, that sound like SLU High.
I guess.
Austin FC. He's a 4-star recruit, ranked 89th in the class by TDS. Kalish called him versatile. Said he's a winner, and that's what stood out most to them.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
Good luck with this one.
Andrew Heckenlabel is a forward from Ankeny, Iowa. He went to Centennial High School, and his club teams have been the VSA Rush and Minnesota United programs. He was a first team All State player in Iowa last year. Caught their eye at a Billiken prospect camp. Kayla said he's a tenacious attacker who has the ability to beat defenders 1v1.
Gershon Henry or Gershon Henry, defender from Portage, Michigan, Salt Lake Academy, Real Salt Lake. Played for the U18 Finland national team, ranked number 28 in the class of 2024 by TDS. Kalish cited his experience playing with the national team programs and in professional settings with Salt Lake. He's a modern left-footed defender with extraordinary passing ability and athleticism, and they're excited to have him back in the Midwest, closer to home.
Xavier Holloway is a
This name,
midfielder.
by the way, this name gives me PTSD.
Yeah, because you think of two Holloway from Xavier.
Yes, I don't
Yeah,
like it.
who was a very good player against SLU. But he's a midfielder from Apex, North Carolina, which is funny because our basketball team has a walk-on from Apex, North Carolina, Holmes, who we mentioned earlier in the show. But he went to Crossroads Flex High School, weird flex Crossroads, and he played his club ball with North Carolina FC. Kalish called him a gritty, tenacious blue collar player, but said he's also athletic and his positional versatility and athleticism along with his mentality, really make him a good fit at SLU.
Now I'm looking up why it's called Crossroads Flex. Because that's apparently what we like to do on this podcast
Well,
is see weird names and then look them up.
why are they all in Apex, North Carolina? Because Holmes's high school was called Apex Friendship School,
That's
remember?
right.
Yeah, so
Oh
like
my God.
every high school in town has a really unusual name.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing like why it's called that. I'm not getting a Wikipedia, which is super upsetting in the initial results. So anyway, we'll move on. Luis Lara, forward transfer from Stetson, originally from Mexico City. This is his last season of eligibility. He was a top 100 college soccer player last season per TDS. Kalish said he's proven that he can be an elite attacker at this level and said he's an intelligent one who presses and creates.
Jackson Lee is a defender from Oklahoma City. He went to Westmore High School and played for Oklahoma City Energy FC. He was the 2023 Oklahoma Defensive Player of the Year. Coach Kalish said he was a top performer at one of their Billiken prospect camps, which, by the way, Zach, that's two now. Um, that's a lesson for recruits. Go to these camps. Like
Yeah.
you can, they're looking. Like you can catch their eye if you're not already on their radar. So that's two members of this very highly rated incoming class. He has great defensive instincts and physical attributes, and he seemed to really love SLU from the start of his recruiting process. So you and I love to hear that. Somebody who always wanted to be a Billiken.
Yeah. When you said Jackson Lee and not Jason Lee, I got really disappointed. I
Mm,
was really, yeah. My name is Earl.
I
Actually,
know.
I prefer him from his earlier work as Brody in the Mallrats film.
Mallrats, yeah.
Yeah. Are you shocked that I love the movie Mallrats? No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
Tiago Lopez, midfielder from Campbell University, originally from Porto, Portugal. 1 year of eligibility remaining. Former teammate of Diego Konings at Campbell. By the way, Diego Konings just made his MLS debut, kind of quietly,
Oh, I missed
for
that.
Chicago. Yeah. Uh, Lopez was all conference second team player in 2022. Honorable mention in 23. Kalish says he's a competitive defensive mid with great stamina, aerial dominance, and ball winning ability.
Huh. All right. Um, Next we've got Joey Maher, who's a defender from Indiana University, a
I think
transfer.
it's he's got to be related to Parker Marr.
Yeah, is that Maher? Bill Maher? Yeah, like
Yeah,
Bill Maher. Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So he's a transfer defender from Indiana, originally from Caseyville, Illinois, and Althoff Catholic High School. Kalish and his staff know him from his days in high school and at St. Louis Scott Gallagher, so they're familiar with him. And they said he'll be the best back in college soccer next season. Kalish also added that his seniority and leadership will be welcome. So I think the younger brother,
No,
Zach,
it's
is
Samuel. Or no, he has a twin brother, Samuel. I don't know if they're related to Parker Marr, but there are at least 3 or 4 Mars out there.
I think the younger one is going to Indiana now. So
So
this
Jack
one
Marr.
is
So Jack Marr. So there's Jack Marr. There's Parker Marr. There's Sam Marr. There's a lot of Mars out there, Pete. I think I've got this all twisted up.
okay. All right. So what I was told is that the younger one is basically replacing him at Indiana and that he's coming to SLU. Um,
That's
which
funny.
is yeah. I mean I don't know if that's a one for one sort of replacement exactly, but yeah, one's going in, one's heading out. So kind of an odd
Yes. So
situation,
he
but
has so the brothers there's JD, Joey, and Josh. And I assume they're all related to Parker and
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Thanks for naming them all very similar things to keep it confusing
They
as
were
possible
thinking
for
about
us.
us. They were pure this was spiteful. They knew we were going to go down this rabbit hole and they did it just to mess with us.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Braden Sellers, midfielder from St. Charles, who attended Whitfield and played club ball with City SC, making his pro debut in 2022 for City 2. Kayla said he fits SLU in so many ways, from his dedication in the classroom to his passion for winning, to his work ethic, to his vision and attacking ability. He has a lot of hometown pride, which you and I respect greatly.
Very much so. Very much so. Zach Stanton is our second to last name here. He's a defender from Imperial, Missouri, and Seckman High School and St. Louis City SC program. He's the number 7 player in the Heartland region, according to Top Drawer Soccer. Kalish thinks he has the ability to be a top defender in college soccer eventually. He's a left-footed center back with composure and leadership potential, who really projects at a high level.
Um, isn't Seckman where? No, that's Hickman. Never mind.
That's Columbia.
Hannah Larson went to Hickman, not Seckman. Um, finally we have Nate Ward, forward transfer from Indiana. He's from Connellsville, Pennsylvania. He was moving to St. Louis to start his career at Edward Jones, but had another year of eligibility. So they managed to make it work for all parties for him to play one last season. Kalish said he was a contributor on some great Indiana teams that made deep runs. They love his work ethic, experience, and attitude. Pete, this just feels like a glue guy.
Yeah, he's got that.
I mean, I'm sure he's a great player.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But no, like, that's just he's at a very different part of his career in life, right? If he's getting ready to start a career in finance and they're like, wait a minute, you got one more year of eligibility and we like what you're bringing to the table. So come on over, be a clubhouse guy for us.
You know how they always talk about like Jordan was playing against plumbers? Well,
Yeah.
like the A10 we're playing against financial advisors, at Edward Jones. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll end on that note.
It's a white collar conference.
Yes, it is. Talk to Davidson. That's like many strays we threw at Davidson.
I know. What did they do to deserve it? Everything.
Yeah. What's that brand? Vineyard Vines. They created that. That's gonna do it for us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, rate. We're gonna, as I mentioned at the top of the hour and whatever, at the top of the show, I guess. We're taking the next week off. I'm gonna be out of town. So we will see you guys on 2 weeks from today. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, about the 17th ish.
Yep. Oh god, that's my birthday. We're gonna okay. Yeah, well maybe we should do a sluts episode for my birthday. So we should do.
It's your birthday. It's whatever you want.
It's my party. I'll cry if I want to, Pete.
Yeah.
As always, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. By the way, before we get going, if you are listening right now and have not checked out our interview prior to this episode with Sarah Adam, United States Paralympian, St. Louis University professor, please go and do that. I'd rather, honestly, Peter and I have sat here and agreed we would rather you go back and listen to that than listen to this. So if you're choosing between one or the other on this holiday week, go listen to that interview, please. Because it's unbelievable. It's so good. And to be fair, it wasn't us. We didn't make it great. It's season 4. Once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast, brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Pete, I'm heading on vacation. We're not releasing an episode next week. You know what I got packed?
I think I have a pretty good guess, Zach.
I've got Two Men in a Garden salsa, and I've got my favorite chips to go with it. I've got multiple flavors. I'm going down on the Black River. I'm going to have myself a time. I'm going to spread the word of Two Men in a Garden to all my friends and vacation family that I've known forever. I'm super excited to dig into Two Men in a Garden this week on the river. I'll make sure to take it out of the glass jar, though, of course. You don't want to be on the river with that glass jar. It's local.
Just a great big thermos.
Yes.
Full of salsa.
Oh God, yes. Old school. Like I'm going to like I'm going to second grade.
That's right.
Yeah, it's local. It tastes amazing. They've got all the flavors to suit your individual salsa preferences. You can get any of their products or many of their products at any local grocery store. But you can get all of their products online at twomeninthegarden.com, which, if you're particular about your salsa, that's where you want to go. You can follow them on social media right now at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, I think before we get into basketball, we got to talk that USA game last night. You said you quipped something about the commentary on that game.
About the commentary specifically?
Yes, you said it was the first time that you had ever heard a broadcast. Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I had ever heard a broadcast booth go harder after a ref than Bob Ramsey does on a slew radio broadcast. And deservedly so, Zach. That may have been the worst official I've ever seen in a professional soccer game.
I mean, it was so bad. I sat there, I'm texting my friends that like we're talking about, that's offside, right? And I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, that's offside. That's coming back. All good. And then he pointed to the middle of the field. And
yeah, I don't even think that was the worst call because that was at least close.
Yes.
Like there was the one where he showed a card and then let them play on.
He thought
I've never seen that before.
He thought he was reffing indoor soccer with the blue card delayed penalty.
Amazing. Really amazing stuff.
He's bringing new rules into the game, really, is what he's doing. He's reinventing soccer. Let's be honest, Kevin Ortega is he's an innovator, to be honest. He's created the delayed yellow card in soccer.
We've seen the future of the game.
It's beautiful. That in the sin bin. We're gonna bring that from rugby. I still can't believe they have penalty box in rugby. That just seems so out of character for a European sport. But anyway, I brought it up because on that yellow card play that you mentioned, there were some Billiken heroics by the one guy I think most people can agree on had a fantastic tournament the entire time.
Yeah, and that's 36-year-old Tim Ream, who saved a goal. I mean, that yellow card continuation resulted in kind of a not quite a lob shot, but a shot over, a charging Matt Turner, and Tim Ream got back there, lunged back, and kept it out of the goal. And it's it's a miracle that he did, because the fallout, had that gone in, would have been even worse than the fallout from that blown offsides call.
I'm just trying to imagine, on what level are we talking? Do you think that like, do you think we're talking riots? Do you think they have to call the game? Because I 100% think that there's a timeline in which the game has to be stopped for more than 10 minutes because of debris on the field.
I've never been a person who favors throwing things on the field or people entering the play of field, but I also have a really strong sense of justice, and like to watch that play out. I mean, like my blood pressure was up at a level that is not healthy during that game.
My chest has been hurting today. I think it's from last night.
I can only imagine some of the more intense and less, maybe after a couple large beers at Arrowhead Stadium, a couple, people with less inhibition, what they might have done after that. I mean, it wasn't a complete sellout or anything like that. It was, it was only about 80% full, the stadium, but good Lord, would it have been ugly.
I mean, everything about that evening was ugly.
Yeah.
Everything. There was not a single, besides the Tim Ream, clear. But like, I've said some shit at Billiken games. I've been disciplined by student conduct for something I did at Billiken games. That it wasn't, in retrospect, like that bad, but it happened. Biondi happened to see it. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I don't know if I'm glad I wasn't there is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think I would have absolutely thrown something. Like that's
Yeah.
one of those, it's almost one of those scenarios where and I don't want to excuse the behavior, but like it's just a visceral deep down in your like how your genetic makeup where like there's nothing stopping it from happening.
But
It's
also, you may have had a safety in numbers thing, right?
yes.
Remember that whole Area 51 thing a
Oh
few
yeah,
years ago where
Naruto running.
they can't arrest us all. If we all
I
agree to
can't.
do this, they can't
Yes,
arrest us all.
I
So
can't.
I think that would have come into play as well.
We're both going to be banned from Chaffetz after this talk, after this chat. We're both never going to
I
be
know.
allowed back
I
in.
know. Now that stadiums have like facial
We're
recognition
security
software.
risks now. I mean, I
Yeah.
was already probably on thin ice, but now this is ruining my life. Let's move on. By the way, that camera angle, if Slew ever does
Bizarre.
anything like that, I'm never letting them live it down.
I was like, this is an NFL stadium. I know this isn't where all of the Chiefs games are broadcast from. I know the field's a little bit wider, but like, come on.
The amazing part was that like they decided that not seeing the sideline on the near side was better than that camera angle.
Right.
Like not being able
Right.
to follow the ball out of bounds was better than that camera angle.
Yeah. Very
Uh,
odd.
um, we've got the A10 matchups, Pete, moving over to men's basketball.
We do. We do. And Zach, I mean, it seems like once again they think SLU is going to be one of the top few teams in the league because they're giving us the home and homes that suggest we're part of this group of teams that they expect to at least have a shot at an at-large bid, right?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I guess are we assuming that St. Joe's is supposed to be good?
Uh, fool me 5 times. Shame on me. I mean, as long as Billy Lang is their head coach, I'm going to sandbag whatever people predict of St. Joe's. But I know most people think they have the talent to be a top 4 team in the league, and I mean, certainly that's true. But we've seen Billy Lang coach his way out of pretty easy wins against SLU
Uh,
in the past 12 months, let alone the last 5 years. So to me, that one, I can't wait to see a guy like Schertz coach against them. It's going to have to be one of those games where everything goes wrong for us and everything goes right for them. But we'll see them twice, so I guess we'll see. But the other 3 home and homes, Dayton and Loyola, no surprises there. I think they're going to keep the 3 of us together permanently. And then VCU is the 4th. So those are the 4 teams we play twice. And Loyola did a lot in the portal this year. VCU, they lost some pieces. They should be relatively comparable to what they were last year. And then Dayton should be pretty good again, even without Holmes. Maybe down a little bit, but these are certainly 4 teams that you wouldn't be surprised to see people putting in their preseason top 4 polls, or
no,
the top 4 of their preseason A10 polls, I should say.
yeah, I mean, I think this right here is the 5
Yeah.
that you would expect. Um, the home games, I mean, I like it. I think we avoid probably. Well, I think they give us Bonaventure and Davidson, and I'm going to call Davidson basically the Bonaventure of the South. I feel like
Well,
it's
wait a
way
minute.
out there.
Davidson's an away
I
game.
know, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So they gave us the one tough road
Sure.
game.
Gotcha.
You got one home for a tough road trip, or the toughest road trip.
Yeah.
Because I've looked and tried to see how I could get to Davidson, and it's at least a plane and a bus.
Yeah. Davidson, it's about 35 miles north of Charlotte. It's a little lakeside community, wealthy retirement kind of vibe up there. Um,
No,
yeah, I know.
no, I
You
can't believe it.
you would
With
never know.
the student base like that? No, I guessed.
Yeah,
I
so
guess real state college vibes is what I was thinking.
Exactly. I actually don't think that's as bad a trip for SLU as Rhode Island, UMass, or
Interesting.
Bonaventure. I think
Hmm.
Bonaventure is probably the toughest as we know from experience. So we avoid that. We avoid Rhode Island. I mean, Rhode Island, you can fly into Providence. It's like a half hour from there. So I guess that's comparable to Davidson. It's just a longer flight, right? And driving around the Northeast is just a little bit trickier. And then you've got
A
George
little bit
Mason.
colder too.
That's right. Yeah. So George Mason, Duquesne, and LaSalle are all at home. LaSalle, we don't get to see their new renovation this season, so
Mm.
that's kind of a bummer. And then away, we've got UMass, which I do think is a tough trip, but this is the last time we're going to have to make it because they move on to the MAC next, the season after this one. And then you've got Richmond, Davidson on the road, Fordham, George Washington. Those are relatively easy road trips for SLU. So all in all, I think this is a pretty good breakdown. I think it's relatively favorable for us. I do think the home and homes are as challenging as they could be, but I think this team's going to be up to the task. And yeah, I'm really excited to see because I think it kind of is an open question. There is no team that you can point to and say this is the number one this year. I really think there's going to be a lot of argument about who that is.
Yeah, a lot of pointless argument, really,
Sure.
when you break it down.
But
Uh,
A10 Twitter will absolutely take a swing at it over and over.
I, God,
You
will
know,
they?
you know they will.
No, I'm excited for I think the A10 season. Not only because I think we're you know predicted to be good again for
Mhm.
for once, but just because I think it is a bit of a like it seems like the top end is a little bit deeper this year.
Yeah.
Now whether that comes to fruition, I think I've said it before. The A10 loves to go into conference season with like two top 25 teams, one fringe top 25 teams, and just everybody beats the hell out of each other and only we come out of one
Yeah.
bid league.
Yeah, and that's the issue here, right? Because I don't see any of these teams as like such a like Dayton has been in a few seasons or VCU has been at times where it's like this is an at-large team no matter what happens. None of these teams are like that. These are all going to be teams that are going to be riding a razor's edge all year. And I could see a lot of them being in kind of like that NIT level, depending on how things break. So you could very easily see this being a one bid season for the league, but I could also see it being three or four if everything breaks right. So it's probably going to be two, maybe three, but we'll just have to see it play out. Obviously, I just think those are the teams that are going to be in the mix for it.
Yeah. Let's talk some non-conference games. We got a lot of news this week. A lot. And we may be one of the first teams to release a schedule this year. Maybe.
We might because and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but according to Stu, what we've got so far leaves us just two exhibition games and two buy games to announce. And those are kind of the easiest ones, right? I mean, you've just got to say we've got an open date and we'll pay you this much to come visit us on such and such a date. And there's gonna at this early in the game, there's gonna be teams that are gonna jump at that. SLU might be a quad one, road game for some of these teams. It could be, not a sure thing, but at the very least, it's going to be a quad two for teams coming up here. Not that that's going to matter for teams buying a game, but still, it's good competition. It should be easy travel in the middle of the country with a major airport, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of selling points for SLU being a buy game destination. And then, in terms of exhibitions, take your pick of any lower division school in the area. So yeah, you're right. We don't have a whole lot to go, and it's July 2nd. So hopefully we hear something pretty soon with regard to the final schedule. But we've got a lot so far.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the probably there are people like West Pine Bills that are really excited about this game. For whatever reason. I'm upset that they didn't hire Mark Titus as head coach at Chicago State. My guy Mark Titus. Um, but we are going to host them on Sunday, December 8th. Pete, what do you think of this one? Because I got nothing.
We brought up Chicago State. Was it last week or the week before? I think it was just last week,
Keep
right?
pulling those strings, Pete.
I mean,
We're gonna keep. We're gonna keep running the show, dude.
It's kind of amazing. The last 2 seasons, Chicago State has been a D1 independent. They left the WAC, which lived up to its name. The conference was and is WAC. They were from 2013 up until 2022, and they had been in a number of different conferences up until that point. They joined D1 back in 1984, and they've bounced around from conference to conference. As we said last week, it's an HBCU. It has struggled financially in recent years. It's down on the far south side of Chicago, kind of by the end of the red line down there. So it's in kind of a tricky spot. They do have, for whatever reason, a huge arena, like a 2-tier, like it's
That
like
probably hurts them.
it almost looks like the St. Louis, like the
Is that
family arena.
Is that Hoffman? Is that in Hoffman
Hoffman.
Estates?
No, Hoffman Estates is like far northwest side. No,
Okay.
that's a newish arena. That's like
Okay.
that opened when I was living there back in like '06 or something like that. But no, this is far south side, and it's not a new arena or a super nice arena. It's just big, and
Oh my God.
yeah, it's right there in the middle of
It
the south side
reminds
of
me of like
Chicago.
Loyola's Arena Plus.
Yeah, it's surprisingly large. I mean, anyway, so they've got that 7,000 seat arena down there, and it's just kind of an unusual situation they're in. But they've actually been pretty competitive the last couple seasons as an independent. Just getting whatever games they can. They played in the CBI this year. They won a game against UC San Diego. They barely lost to Fairfield, which has one of the nicest gyms in all of college basketball, by the way, and no shortage of money. So they're just kind of a plucky little program. And for somebody like West Pine Bills living in Chicago, seeing the ultimate underdog school there on the South Side, I mean, I can see kind of being jazzed about this one a little bit because they're kind of a feel good story. Like a lot of people said, they just got to fold up and go to lower division. Maybe the school's not even going to be around much longer. Who knows? And yet here they are. They're joining the Northeast Conference this season, and they've kind of been good lately. So this is a tougher buy game than you would think, based on what people think about Chicago State.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm intrigued by it, though with their success, I guess, relative to their kind of position in college basketball. So should be interesting, at least a challenge.
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
I mean, Chicago State just goes, I mean, historically goes on the road a ton. So they're
Right.
as a program, they're used to it. So it'll be fun. Um, Jackson State, Monday, December 2nd. This one is less intriguing to
Yeah,
me.
Jackson State, I think the last time they won their league was a few years ago. Yeah, 2021. It looks like they were co-champs of the regular season in the SWAC. They're not. This is going to be probably one of the lowest teams we play in terms of net ranking. They were right at number 300 at the end of last year. So for the year they had they had a losing record, not a terrible record. They were 15 and 17 overall, but that SWAC, the net ratings of those teams are just all very low. So that's just kind of built in with that one. But I think this would probably be, depending on the last 2 games. So far on our schedule, this is by far the lowest net rated team from last season that we would be playing this season.
Um, this is interesting one. We've talked about this actually. But it is confirmed now. SLU is going to host an MTE on November 25th to the 27th.
Right.
And this will be Quinnipiac and UMass Lowell. We thought maybe there was going to be another team added, but that will not be the case.
No, it looks like it's just these three. And if what Stu said is right, I think the way this is going to work is we'll play one of those teams on Monday, the 25th of November. We'll play the other one on the 27th, that Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And then the Tuesday in between, those two teams will play each other. Now, these were actually pretty good teams last season. Lowell was 142 in the net, and Quinnipiac was 160. So for small teams from the Northeast, that's a really respectable ranking. And if they can kind of be hanging in that area again. Those are two teams that are going to be competing for a conference title in their league. So their leagues being the America East for UMass Lowell, and then the MAC with two A's for Quinnipiac, which is a little bit better conference than the America East. But Lowell's since they've joined D1, they've been a solid team in the America East, and I think they've won the league a couple times. So
And they're better than UMass.
they've beaten UMass
Amherst.
before. That's right. They've earned that flagship a
They
couple
are
times.
the flagship.
So yeah, I think these, look, we needed the MTE to get 2 extra games. If you don't have an MTE, you can only play a total of 29 games instead of 31 in your regular season. So it was important to get an MTE. These are better opponents than typical bye game opponents. So given the reality of our situation and the MTE that we thought we were going to be in Jacksonville falling apart, I think you could do a lot worse than this.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm I'm kind of intrigued to go to the game on Tuesday, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, the one in between. I know. I was kind of thinking about that before because we're so far from those schools, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's, maybe the way this will be ticketed. I mean, season ticket holders will have their
Season ticket
tickets
holders should just be like
given a free. Yeah,
yeah, just run
I agree.
GA or something like that.
And
Or
I'm
just give us
wondering
our
if
seats.
I really am wondering how they'll ticket the event in general. Like, can you get like a $25 ticket that gets you all 3 games or something like that? I would absolutely go see free basketball on that Tuesday.
Yeah. And it'd be, I mean, it's again, these are teams that you don't get to see and getting to see, like anytime you get to see a Division I college basketball games. I mean, if you're not, you know, going over to SIUE or you're not going like you can see those guys anytime, but to see a random couple teams is kind of neat.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, Pete, I think I really want my idea for the brand name for this game to come true, but I don't think Grand Canyon will appreciate it.
No, I don't think they will. And that's you're referring to the game that SLU will play at Grand Canyon
Yes.
on Sunday, December 22nd, with a return game to be played at Chaffetz next season. And I don't know about you, Zach. I will have nothing but kind things to say about Grand Canyon University, a very respectable institution,
Yes. Yes.
leading up
A
to
very respectable cult.
and in the aftermath of this game. But yes, so what's your brand name idea for
It's
this
the
series?
it's the Catholics versus the cultists. I don't. It's gonna be fun. I think it's a great locale. It's a
Yeah.
nice destination game, I think, and it's gonna be worth the trip to Phoenix.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to get out there, whether I can make it happen for a long weekend, right before the holidays. And with Christmas and New Year on Wednesdays, it's the schedule is already weird this year. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but for everyone who can, I mean, yeah, flying out to Phoenix second to last weekend of the year, like why not?
I
That's a nice trip.
I told my boss I'll be working from the Phoenix office
Yeah,
that week.
absolutely.
Um, Grand Canyon University. What what a joke of a place. Sorry, I just
Yeah,
had to throw that in there.
yeah.
Um, People forget they bribed their students to attend games, and that's why they have that atmosphere. They give them course credit, or they did at one point.
Yeah, I mean, when your course credits are worth nothing, there's no
That's
downside to
true.
giving it away
You
for
make
free
you make a great point, Pete.
to people already paying for your terrible product.
As you mentioned before, according to Stu, that leaves us only 4 games left, 2 exhibitions and 2 bye games. I'm holding out hope that this year Athletes in Action will come back.
I miss them or the EA Sports All Stars.
Oh, the EA Sports All Stars. It's got to come back. You got to
The
bring the EA Sports All Stars back.
EA had a lot of teams at any given time, and those were some good teams. They got like really good players on those teams sometimes. Athletes in action too, man. I mean, like we've heard the stories
Yeah.
from some of our interview subjects over the years of the show, but those were some good teams. I know it's the NCAA rule now, but that those don't exist anymore. But they were good.
And they would play just like the Washington Generals. There was no chance you were going to lose.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah,
but
there were there
the,
there were losses.
there were, yeah, I was going to say those there were some losses with those teams, and that's just based on sheer talent alone, right? Because they had so little time to actually practice and put their teams together and things like that, and they traveled, just ruthless schedules, grueling road schedules for those players.
They'd play like
Um,
every night.
yeah, so anytime they did win, you were just like these are these are some really good athletes on this team. But yeah, Zach, so we're gonna have a couple exhibitions. Our opener's on the 4th of November up in South Dakota, as we know. So I would expect the exhibitions to be kind of that last week of October. And then Stu said the other games are targeted for, November 10th, 9th or 10th, give or take a day, and then the week between Christmas and New Year's, which kind of surprised me because that leaves them 2 other full week gaps during December. Like I kind of thought like December 11th and 18th made a lot of sense, given where they were in in the calendar. So I think we're going to have a pretty light December, and unfortunately no Christmas break. So the dates we're filling in are not the dates that I thought they would be, with one exception. So kind of weird.
We talked with was it Diener who mentioned athletes in action? Was that the interview?
Diener did Lish
Yeah, I
mention
don't.
them?
I think it was Diener because he talked about like having to give testimony.
I don't think that
Who
wasn't
who,
Diener.
who was that? I don't know, but I thought it was odd, um, Christians being such exhibitionists. Um,
Oh wow. Did you strain your back reaching for that one, Zach? You got to be careful. We're not getting any younger. Save the dad jokes for me.
I don't even have kids.
That's why. That's why.
Yeah, it's true. Um, there was an interesting article from Stu about the scheduling process.
Yeah.
Um, what are you thinking here? What's your main takeaway from this article?
So the main takeaway is that there's just no headliners, right? Like it's an unusual schedule. It's gonna for and I saw this point actually made today on Twitter is like for casual fans, there's not that kind of the headliner that grabs your eye, right? Like think in years past when we had teams like Gonzaga or Arizona or UNC or whoever come to town, we're not seeing that anymore. But we know that by now, right? Like Schertz has said that pretty much any big time program out there, they think SLU's going to be good enough that they're a little risky, but they're also not a guaranteed quad one road game. So we're kind of in a funny spot right now in year one of his tenure because schools kind of want to see us prove it before they say, okay, we'll get a home and home, like a North Carolina State last year or something like that. So SLU thinks that San Francisco and Grand Canyon could be quad one road games. Santa Clara and Wichita State should be quad two neutral site opponents. And without headliners, SLU has actually talked to data analysts like Ken Pomeroy, Bart Torvik to make sure that this strategy is going to work even without those headliners. The idea being that because they haven't been able to lock down any power conference teams, can we make sure that we have a lot of quality mid-level and lower level conference opponents that are going to help or at least not hurt our net ranking? I thought Schertz's quote to finish the piece was really interesting, Zach. He said, it's hard because the high majors are in it for themselves. It's human nature. They just try to close everybody else off. They want as many quad fours as they can at home and to play neutrals against each other. And I think that's what it's all about at this point, right? Like their conferences have gone to 20 game schedules. So that's -2 games right there. That's 2 bites of the apple that we miss out on right there for every one of those teams. Then they play they play an MTE, a neutral event with other a blend, but mostly power conference opponents. They'll play a couple like headliner events on like a neutral floor somewhere, like there
Very
are
low risk, high
so many
reward.
examples out there. Yeah, like Michigan State is playing somebody in Detroit, and then they'll go. Is it Gonzaga or something like that? And then they'll go to like Seattle next year. I can't remember, but like those are the kind of events that you're seeing. And then their home non-conference schedules are just bye games. which is not what SLU, which is not what A10 programs are. So it puts us in a really awkward position of how do we get a quality non-conference schedule to where we can have both enough shots at quad one games and enough wins to get into an NCAA tournament. And that is a really, really hard needle to thread these days.
Yeah, I don't like it, man. I really like this idea that you should schedule like, requiring teams to schedule a certain level down, I guess, on the road. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what the answer is. I mean, I think maybe, I mean, if the NCAA could, mandate that these power conferences play only 18 games, maybe that's.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see something like that happen to where, we actually have more opportunities for these sorts of things, but I don't know. I don't see that happening. I don't know what the answer is. There are things like we had the A10 Mountain West partnership that was going to happen, and I think the pandemic killed that, and it never got back off the ground. And Mountain West has been better than the A10 the last few years now. Um, so those are the kind of level games that we should be seeking out. We have a few West Coast Conference games, and that's pretty good these days. It's Gonzaga and everybody else usually, but the top half of that league's been pretty good lately, and I think that's what we're trying to get with like San Francisco and Loyola Marymount and Santa Clara. So we're playing three of those teams. Um, I think they're doing the best they can for a new staff, unproven at this institution so far, and hopefully, if everything breaks right this year, scheduling should be easier next year.
Pete, we've got two new offers out, and I gotta be honest with you. I'm confessing right now. Every time I see this guy's name, I just read Jeff Galooly.
It does look like that. It's one of those names. I don't think I've seen this last name before, but it does look like that. And it's a 2025 offer to Matt Gilhool, Gilhool. So a little
And he
tricky.
and he did not order a hit on a figure skater.
No, he did not. He's a 6'11", 205-pound, really long, lean player. He's from Philly. He plays at William Penn Charter, and he plays for Team Final AAU, which is a Nike EYBL team that has, I think, won the EYBL in recent years. Long, lean, left-handed, stretch big, really nicely developed skill set. He's ambidextrous as a finisher, very smart finisher too. He's got good touch and timing, and he's a consistent shooter from outside. He's got nice handles for somebody who's so long and skinny. And he's a solid offensive rebounder with, good instincts and timing and things like that. He's a top 100 prospect. So it's interesting to get in this late in the game. His other offers right now, he's got St. John's, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, Rutgers, Maryland, Penn State, Washington, LSU, Mississippi State, Georgia, Syracuse, Miami, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Cincinnati, West Virginia, few others from non-power conferences to give you an idea of the level. And one interesting thing about this guy is he said he's actually going to be announcing his finalists on Monday the 8th. So something to keep in mind. By the time we record our next show, SLU is either going to be one of his finalists or we're not. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of pitch we made, kind of getting into a very crowded pool late in the game for a top 100 player.
Read my mind there. I just read
Yeah.
that tweet as we were, and I was gonna insert that little fun fact. How about this next offer?
So this guy's recruitment has gone a little differently. His name's Trey Singleton. He's also a 2025 player, meaning he'll be a senior this fall. He's 6'8", 215. He's from Jeffersonville High School in Indiana, which is right across the river from Louisville. And he plays for Team Tradition AAU, which is an Adidas Gold program. Tough, competitive power forward. He's a hard rebounder. He operates in the mid and low post. He can put it on the floor, get around bigger defenders. He's got good footwork and body control, soft touch around the rim, and he's a really versatile defender who can guard a few positions. So he's one, unlike Gilhool, who has his recruitment has really just blown up recently. His other offers right now are from Richmond. That was his first offer last year. Northwestern, Indiana State, Valpo, Kent State, Miami, Ohio, Eastern Michigan, Ball State, IUPUI, Wright State, NKU. I think that's the whole horizon, by the way. Western Carolina, Furman, Appalachian State, and Georgia State. So
Uh,
most of those offers have actually come in about the past 5 weeks or so.
that was Western Kentucky, not NKU, by the way.
Did I say NKU? It's
You do? Nope.
WKU.
Nope.
I got to write it out. I can't write those abbreviations, but thank you. Yeah, Western Kentucky, different school than Northern Kentucky. But anyway, a little bit more of a later bloomer, and he's not zeroing in on his finalist quite yet.
Pete, not a whole lot aside from the schedule news we've already covered. We do have jersey numbers, which is exciting for me. It's part of my fan shtick, I guess, to get into the number, not necessarily the numbers, but I like to know what number. Like, I don't know. It's something I find interesting.
Yeah.
Thames is going to be wearing 0 again. Hughes will be wearing 2 again. Obviously, Jimerson will be 24 again. As far as the newcomers, you're looking at Swope in number 1. McCautry will have 4. Schertz 5. Kalu Anya 6. Kobe Johnson 8. Holmes, who is a walk-on. What's his first name, Pete?
Isaac.
Yeah. Isaac Holmes will wear 12. Josiah Dotzler will wear 13. Killian Brockhoff, 14. A guy you might have heard of, Robbie Avila, will wear 21. Patton is a walk-on too?
He is Nick Patton from
Nick
Chicago.
Patton, that's right. AJ Casey, 23. Not Dionne Warwick. Warlick will wear 33. And Max Picard will wear 35. By the way, I gotta love like a baby face white kid, 3-4 wearing number 33. It really gives me nostalgia, that Chris Sloan nostalgia that I need in my life.
Yeah, we should have retired that jersey, but
As soon as he posterized Channing Frye, that jersey should have been in the rafters, according to Chris Sloan.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's Sloan was always his number one fan. So no doubt about that. What's your reaction to these numbers, Zach? Are there any besides the Sloan number? Any legacies you see here? Any numbers you don't like? Any numbers that fit or don't fit?
I mean, the 6 and 8 is going to throw me for a loop every time. Kalu and Kobe will be the first Billikens to wear 6 and 8 respectively. Cause I think what's his little ass do? Or what did he wear? I can't think of his name right now. He got injured last year, back injury.
Let me just look at last year's roster. But yeah, it's only a recent rule, right? That
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
wear digits that are not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mike Meadows wore
Right.
number
Mike
7.
Meadows. Thank you, Mike Meadows.
So I think he's the only non 1 through 5 digit we've had so far. So 6 and 8 are new to the program. And yeah, I'm kind of a purist. I don't love those numbers either. I've never loved 0 as a number, but I know we're in disagreement.
I'm a double 0 guy.
I know. I mean, I don't like either. I don't like either. So
have you checked your pants lately for a dump?
I'm just I those are not my favorites. But otherwise, I see a lot of like kind of single digits here, a lot of lower numbers. I kind of feel like historically bigs were always kind of your 30s, 40s, 50s, and we don't really have much of that anymore.
I know, so it's very I just remember that I had to take the small numbers because I was the shortest and like in CYC.
So you were always like number 5 or 10 or something.
Yeah. Oh no, I was 1, buddy. Yeah. I was 1. Although I did get 25 one year for baseball, and which is ironic because I couldn't hit, and I was the only kid that was allowed to bunt because I couldn't hit, but I had enough, like I had the best hand-eye coordination and I could bunt. Only kid that the coach allowed to bunt. Shout out Coach Fumagalli. I don't know. You've got McCautry wearing 4. That's a Josh Fisher. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, Brockhoff rocking 14. You look at the Conklin, AJ Casey, the Kyle Cassidy, the Jalen Johnson, Robbie Avila wearing Lish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Picard, come on, Max, you got to find a better number than that. Like
The third,
35 might be the lamest number.
I mean, I would say 6 or 8 or 0, but
Oh, get off it.
I think you can make a case for 35.
It's fair enough. Um, Jordan Kodrowski, congratulations to him.
Yeah, he's going to be joining the staff at Maryville. He was a senior graduate manager on Ford's staff, and yeah, we hadn't really heard much lately. We still don't know where a couple of our former walk-ons are going, or if a few of our former staffers. So it was good to get news on him, and he seems pretty excited about the new role.
Jordan Goodwin, some less than stellar news. But we do expect him to end up on a roster next year, Pete. I think.
Yeah, I think there's still going to be a market for what he does, but the Memphis Grizzlies did not extend a qualifying offer, which makes him an unrestricted free agent. So he'll still qualify for a two-way contract somewhere. We'll keep track of it, Zach. I don't know where it's going to be, but I don't think his NBA days are behind him.